All right, animal science class, welcome to kind of our first bigger lesson we're going to be doing. The biggest thing here, it's kind of a foundational lesson because animal terminology really leads kind of a basis or a foundation for the whole rest of animal science class because the biggest thing we're going to be focusing on kind of week to week are different industries within the livestock industry, the beef industry, the swine industry, poultry industry, sheep industry are all going to be, very crucial parts and really kind of the lessons we're going to be going over in this animal science class. So, animal terminology lays a foundation for all of those different industries that we're going to be going over. So, the biggest thing I want you to get out of today and really for this lesson will be to I want you to be able to identify the different proper terminologies for each species of farm animal or livestock. And the first one we're going to start out with are cattle. Now, these terms can apply for beef or dairy animals, okay? Again, beef animals are going to be what really kind of the breeds that are used for meat production, and dairy are going to be the ones used for milk production. So, the first one we're going to be talking about are bulls and steers. A bull is an uncastrated male beef or dairy animal, and a steer is a castrated male beef or dairy animal. Now, the term castration simply refers to the removal of the testicles from the animal, the male reproductive um, organ where the sperm is created. Now, the reason why this is used in the livestock industry is because you do not the reason why castration is used and the removal of the testicles is because you do not want that male to have its genetics being passed on. You simply just want to end the reproductive potential of that male animal. And also in pigs that we'll talk about in just a little bit, it also can taint the meat, but doesn't do that so much for cattle. So the female beef or dairy animals, we are either have a heifer or a cow. A heifer has not had a calf yet, and a cow is a beef or dairy animal that has had a calf. So heifer has not had a calf, and a cow has had a calf. And the last two terms for the beef industry that I really want you to know are calf and calving. Calf is simply a young beef or dairy animal that is either a male or female, and it is simply when it's born, you can call it a calf, and it's either male or female. And then calving is a term that cattle producers use when their heifer or cow is giving birth or gave birth. And a lot of times you can hear farmers discuss when they're going to be calving. Farmers calve in the springtime or they calve in the wintertime, January through March, depending on what their operation does and how they go ahead and market their animals. Okay, the next species we're going to be going over is swine. You can see here that this is a boar, which we'll be talking about first. And the first two we're going to be talking about are boar and barrow. A boar is an uncastrated male swine. The testicles are still attached. And a barrow is a castrated male swine. Again, one of the reasons why we would castrate animals is because we don't want their genetics to be passed on after they grow up here. And we want to turn the boars into barrows, and then they can be shipped out to market for meat production. Now, another reason why is because the meat of a boar, since the testicles are still removed, that testosterone is a very strong hormone, and the meat is then very tainted in its taste, and consumers would not want to eat it. So that is why you would castrate them. Now, I have to add some of these in here. So just hold on 1 second. Sorry about this. Okay. So we have here a Female swine that has not had a litter is called a gilt. The female swine that has had a litter is called a sow. Now, a young swine is just simply called a pig, or you could also call it a piglet, like Charlotte's Web, we could say. But let's go back up to here where it says gilt and sow. Okay, a gilt would be that has not had a litter, and a sow has had a litter, just to reiterate that. And the act of parturition, or you could also say this is also a term that is birthing. The act of parturition or birthing in swine is called farrowing. So a lot of times you could see that swine producers say a farrowing house, and that is what we are actually saying, that this is a farrowing house, where the gilts or the sows have pigs. Okay, so our next one here then, the next species we're going to be getting into are sheep. An uncastrated male sheep is called a ram, or could also be called a buck, but we're going to stick with the term, we're going to stick with a ram. So there's terms are interchangeable, but we're going to stick with a ram. A castrated male sheep is called a wether. So a ram is an uncastrated male sheep, and a castrated male sheep is called a wether. Female sheep is just simply called a ewe. Now, if it's a younger or older, it doesn't matter. They're just called ewes. And a young sheep, you can call them lambs. And then the act of parturition, or once again, birthing in sheep, is called lambing. So lamb is a young sheep, and lambing is the act of giving birth in sheep. So our next species we're going to be going over, simply goats. Uncastrated male goat would be called a billy. Now there's other terms again you could use, but we're gonna stick with the term billy. A castrated male goat, same as sheep, is called a wether. A female goat is called a nanny, and sometimes the term doe is used, but we're gonna stick with nanny. And then a young goat is called a kid. Now, the act of parturition or giving birth, again, birthing in goats, is called kidding. So I guess anytime somebody comes to you and says, "Oh, I'm just kidding," I guess they're saying that they are actually giving birth to a goat. So at least you learned something new today, I bet, didn't you? Okay, the next one here is we're going to go over horses here. Now, an uncastrated male horse is just simply called a stallion, and a castrated male horse would be called a gelding. So, uncastrated is a stallion, and a gelding is a castrated male horse. Now, a female horse over 2 years of age is called a mare, and then a filly would be a female horse less than 2 years of age that has not had a foal or a colt. So foal and colt are going to be the young, and we'll talk about that here in just a second, but that term is going to be interchangeable. But again, stallion is uncastrated male, gelding has been castrated, a mare is a female horse over 2 years of age, and a filly is a female horse less than 2 years of age that has not had a foal. Which leads us to our next slide here. A foal, or colt, as some people say, is a young horse. We're going to stick with foal. And then this leads us to the act of parturition or birthing again in horses is called foaling. So we'll just simply type in here birthing. because parturition and birthing again mean the same thing, but foal is a young horse and foaling is the act of parturition in horses. Okay, the last species of animals that we're going to be going over today are chickens. Now we have a rooster that is just simply an uncastrated male chicken. Right? These are definitely, I'm sure you've probably seen these in um, a lot of cartoons or things like that, but roosters are uncastrated male chickens. A castrated male chicken, yes, they actually do castrate chickens, which I know is interesting, but this is called a capon. Um, I don't know how much in the industry they actually castrate chickens, but they definitely do, and there's a name for them. Female chicken is just simply called a hen. A young chicken at market weight is called a broiler. You got to remember that this is what a lot of times you're going to be eating broilers in the store. Or if you raise your chickens to be a market weight, you can call them broilers as well. And a lot of times the a leghorn is going to be, I believe, the breed that is going to be a broiler. A chick is a very young chicken, not yet at market weight. So really, a lot of times when chicks are, when you get a chick from the Orchlands or wherever you buy Murray McMurray or wherever, they're going to be called chicks, and that's either a male or a female. Guess one thing I will add that I'm not going to be quizzing you about though, but a lot of times a young rooster could be called a cockerel, and then a young hen could be called a pullet. But I'm just going to quiz you on a rooster and a hen, simple terms. And then the last thing, the act of parturition or giving birth in chickens is called laying. So they're going to be laying their eggs. And that should be easy enough to understand. That laying is for chickens, the act of birthing in chickens. Horses, again, would be foaling, giving birth. Goats would be kidding. The act of giving birth in goats is kidding. The act of giving birth for sheep is lambing. The act of giving birth for swine is farrowing. And then for cattle, the act of giving birth is calving. So some of the major species we're going to be going over. I just wanted to really outline this terminology here. So we have cattle, we have swine, we got sheep, goats, um, poultry industry we'll get into, and then we are gonna get into the horse industry as well, just a little bit. So hopefully you learned a little bit in this first lesson of animal terminology, and we will continue going through lessons. We're going to start in on just a little bit of a history of animal science and agriculture and kind of the foundations in our first section out of the book. So hope you enjoyed and have a great rest of your day.